Welcome to Heartfelt Revenge Stories. My name is Emma Sullivan. I'm 29 years old, and 3 weeks ago, I thought I had everything figured out. You know that feeling when your life looks perfect on paper? That's where I was. Great job as a financial analyst, gorgeous downtown apartment with those massive windows that made everyone jealous, and a boyfriend I'd been with for 4 years. His name was Marcus Hayes. We met the way everyone meets now, through mutual friends at some fancy rooftop bar where the cocktails cost more than dinner and everyone pretended the city skyline made them feel alive instead of exhausted. Marcus was different though, charming but not in that trying too hard way. He was funny, genuinely funny, the kind that makes your stomach hurt from laughing. He remembered the little things I said, asked me about them weeks later, made me feel like I was the only person in the room. Please subscribe and like this video and listen to my story till the end. Let me know which city you're listening from in the comments. I want to see how far my story travels, how many of you out there understand what I'm about to tell you. The first 2 years with Marcus were... they were easy. God, that's such a dangerous word, isn't it? Easy. We talked about everything. Kids, the house we'd buy when we finally felt like real adults, the dog we weren't quite ready for. Last December, during this magical winter trip to the mountains, he proposed. I cried, he cried. His mom literally sobbed when we FaceTimed her. Everything looked perfect. But here's the thing about perfect. It can hide what's rotting underneath. About 6 months ago, Marcus started mentioning his ex more often. Her name was Sierra. They dated for 2 years in college, broke up when she moved across the country for grad school. Clean break, or so he'd always told me. Ancient history. Her name had never bothered me before, but then it stopped sounding like the past and started creeping into the present, you know? Have you ever had that gut feeling that something was wrong, but everyone told you you were being paranoid? Drop a comment if you know exactly what I mean. At first, it seemed harmless. Sierra would have loved this place, he'd say at dinner. Then came the Instagram likes, the comments, a congratulatory message about our engagement that felt too familiar. Oh, I ran into Sierra at a conference, Marcus mentioned casually one evening. We grabbed coffee to catch up. I wasn't the jealous type. I believed in trust. I believed in being mature. But trust starts cracking when the same name keeps appearing in conversations that somehow never include you anymore. Coffee became lunch, lunch became drinks with mutual friends who always seemed to include Sierra, and slowly I started feeling like I was watching my own relationship from the outside, present but not central anymore, just there. Then, exactly 1 week before Marcus's 30th birthday, he dropped it. I invited Sierra to my birthday party, he said, pouring himself wine like he was discussing the appetizer menu. Please be mature about it. I smiled. Can you believe that? I actually smiled. Sure, I said, no problem. The relief on his face? He kissed my cheek, thanked me for being so understanding, so reasonable, so mature. What he didn't know was that earlier that afternoon, I'd already done my research, and I'd already sent a message that would change absolutely everything. If you've ever watched someone you love walk straight toward a cliff and realized they're not going to stop, no matter how loudly your silence is screaming, you'll understand why I didn't argue with Marcus that night. Arguing would have made me the villain. It would have given him the perfect story to tell everyone later. Emma's so insecure, Emma's controlling, Emma's dramatic. So instead, I smiled. I played the role he wanted me to play. Then I went back to my laptop and did what I do best. I followed the trail of details until they led me somewhere Marcus couldn't talk his way out of. In finance, people think the job is just numbers and spreadsheets. It's not. It's patterns, it's verification, it's reading between the lines of what people choose to show you and what they're desperately hiding. 2 weeks earlier, after the 3rd time Marcus mentioned Sierra like she was some inside joke I wasn't part of, I looked her up. LinkedIn, Instagram, tagged photos, and in less than 10 minutes I found what Marcus had conveniently never mentioned. Sierra wasn't single. Sierra had a boyfriend. His name was Tyler Bennett. 8 months together, according to her very public social media. Beach vacations, wine bars, anniversary captions that made my teeth hurt with how aggressively happy they pretended to be. So that Monday afternoon, before Marcus even came home and dropped his little bomb, I sent Tyler a message. Nothing aggressive, just polite enough to be absolutely dangerous. Hi, Tyler. We haven't met, but I'm Emma Sullivan, Marcus Hayes' fiancé. Marcus is having his birthday party this Saturday at the Madison Loft at 7 p.m. He mentioned inviting Sierra, and I thought it would be lovely if you came too. The more the merrier. Hope to see you there. Tyler responded within an hour. Oh, wow, Sierra didn't mention a party. Thanks so much for the invite. I'd love to come. Should I bring anything? I told him just himself, because the truth was already more than enough. What would you have done in my position? Would you have stayed silent or done exactly what I did? Comment below because I need to know I'm not crazy for this. The next few days were completely normal on the surface. You know that feeling when a wall has a crack running through it, but it looks fine until someone leans against it? That was us. Marcus was so excited, texting me constantly about the guest list, the catering options, the perfect playlist. He'd rented this industrial loft space with exposed brick and string lights everywhere, one of those places people choose when they want their party to look expensive in photos. About 40 people were invited, his coworkers, college friends, some of my friends who'd gotten absorbed into his social circle over the years, his parents, his younger sister Ashley, and Sierra. Friday night, Marcus was in full birthday mode. Fresh haircut, trimmed nails, outfit planned like he was the one getting married. He kept pacing through our apartment, checking things off on his phone with this manic energy. At one point, I asked as casually as I could manage, "Did Sierra RSVP?" "Yeah," he said, barely glancing up. "She'll be there." A small pause. My heart was pounding. "Is she bringing anyone?" Marcus stopped. Not dramatically, just stopped. "No," he said, too quickly. "Why?" I shrugged like I hadn't already invited the person who would answer that question for both of us, just wondering if she had a +1. "She's not seeing anyone," he said, with the confidence of a man repeating a lie he didn't even bother to fact-check. "She's been focused on school and work." I nodded, and something inside me went very, very still. Because that wasn't a mistake. That was a choice. Drop a like if you can already see where this is going, because honey, you have no idea how wild this gets. Saturday arrived with that crisp, bright weather that feels almost cruel when your life is quietly burning down. We got to the venue at 6 to set up. Marcus looked so happy. Not nervous, not conflicted, just happy. He moved through the space like someone hosting a celebration he genuinely believed he deserved. He adjusted string lights, tested the sound system, joked with the catering staff. I watched him, and this thought came so sharp it almost made me laugh out loud. If he can be this relaxed about inviting his ex, imagine what else he's been relaxed about. Guests started arriving around 7:15. His parents came first. His mother hugged me so tightly, like she could sense something wrong in my bones. His father shook Marcus's hand and said, "30's a big one," like it automatically guaranteed maturity. Ashley arrived with 2 friends. She looked at me and smiled, but her eyes stayed on my face just half a second too long, like she was trying to read something there. Then came coworkers, college friends. My friend Bailey, the only person I'd texted earlier saying, "Tonight might get interesting." Bailey showed up at 7:30, took one look at my face and mouthed, "You okay?" I wasn't okay, but I was prepared. At 7:40, Sierra walked in. Even though I'd only seen her through screens, I recognized her instantly. Some people just carry their own spotlight into a room, you know? She was tall, effortlessly put together, hair glossy, dressed in that perfectly tailored way that screams, "I'm not trying," when everyone knows she absolutely is. She held a small gift bag in one hand and a bouquet of flowers in the other. Marcus's face lit up. Not politely, not socially, lit up. "Sierra," he said, stepping toward her like his body moved before his brain could stop it. She smiled. "Happy birthday, Mark." Mark? I'd never called him that. Ever. She hugged him longer than a friendly hug should last, long enough that I saw his fingers press slightly into her back before he remembered I was standing there watching. He took those flowers like they mattered more than the ring on my finger. "You look amazing," he said, voice softer than I'd heard him in weeks. Sierra's eyes finally flicked to me, and her smile shifted into something more careful. "Oh," she said lightly, "you must be Emma." Marcus turned like he'd completely forgotten I existed. "Yeah, Emma, this is Sierra. Sierra, Emma." Like an afterthought, like introducing people at a networking event. I extended my hand, smiling. "Nice to meet you." Her handshake was firm, confident. "Marcus has told me so much about you." "He's mentioned you too." Something flickered behind her eyes, fast as a camera shutter. Then Marcus was already pulling her to the bar, introducing her to people, laughing too loudly at her jokes. I watched him the way she touched his arm when she spoke, the way he leaned in, the way he kept his entire body angled toward her like the rest of the room was just background noise. And I felt something that surprised me, not rage, not tears, just clarity. Because this wasn't nostalgia, this was rehearsal. Have you ever watched someone you love choose someone else right in front of you? Tell me in the comments because I need to know I'm not alone in this feeling. At 7:10, the loft doors opened again, and the air changed. He walked in with the kind of confidence that comes from not knowing you are about to step into someone else's war. Tyler Bennett. Dark hair, broad shoulders, crisp jacket, handsome in a clean, unflashy way. He paused just inside the entrance, scanning the room like he was looking for someone familiar. I intercepted him before anyone else could. "Tyler," I said, smiling like a hostess. His face brightened with relief. "Tyler, yes, hi." I leaned in for a quick, polite hug, warm enough to make him feel welcome, not intimate enough to seem weird. "I'm really glad you came," I said. "Thanks for inviting me," he said genuinely. "This place is incredible. It photographs well," and I felt Bailey's eyes on me from across the room, watching like she just realized I was holding a lit match. Tyler shifted the gift bag in his hand. "So, where's Sierra? I want to surprise her." I paused dramatically. I tilted my head toward her. "She's right over there." Tyler's smile widened. "Perfect! She's going to be so surprised." I stepped aside, and I watched him walk into the crowd like a man strolling into sunshine, completely unaware. He weaved between groups of people, smiling politely at strangers, moving with purpose. Then he reached the bar. Sierra was standing close to Marcus, laughing at something he said, her fingers resting on his forearm like she belonged there. Tyler came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist, and kissed her on the cheek. "Babe," he said, brightly, loud enough that the small circle around them heard. The look on Sierra's face was instantaneous, like someone had yanked the power cord out of her entire expression. Her smile froze. Marcus's head snapped up like he'd been slapped, and for one perfect, beautiful second, time stopped. Sierra recovered first, because people like her always do. "Tyler," she laughed. "Too high, too fast. You made it." Marcus just stared, his mouth literally hanging open. Tyler didn't notice the tension yet. He was too busy being happy. He turned slightly, eyes scanning faces, and then saw Marcus standing there frozen. The confusion hit Tyler like a delayed wave. Tyler's gaze flicked back to Sierra. Who's this? Sierra's fingers tightened on her drink. Marcus's mouth opened, closed, opened again like a fish. And then Tyler looked at me, finally spotting the only familiar face in the room. "Oh, Emma," he said, relieved. "Thanks again for the invite. This was so sweet of you." Sierra's eyes found mine across the bar, and in that moment I watched the realization land in her like ice-cold water. This wasn't an accident. Tyler smiled at her, still oblivious. "Seriously, babe, you never tell me anything. 8 months together and I still don't know your schedule." 8 months. The number hung in the air like a verdict. Someone near them went quiet, then another person. Conversations around the bar lowered, then stopped entirely, like the whole room had leaned closer without actually moving. Sierra swallowed hard. "Tyler, this is Marcus." Tyler blinked. "Okay." Marcus forced a laugh that sounded like it physically hurt. We used to date in college." Tyler's smile faltered, his gaze sharpened. "You didn't mention you were coming to your ex-boyfriend's birthday party," he said slowly, not accusing yet, just processing. Sierra's cheeks flushed. It was last minute. Marcus nodded way too fast. "Yeah, just a casual group thing." Tyler looked between them, and suddenly he wasn't smiling anymore. "Right," he said, voice tight. "A group thing. Would you have stayed or left immediately? Because what happens next is absolutely unhinged. Keep watching." Sierra's eyes were getting glossy now. Anger, panic, heat, humiliation, all fighting for control in her expression. "Sierra," she said through clenched teeth, "can I talk to you, privately?" She didn't wait for an answer. She just walked toward the back hallway near the bathrooms, heels clicking like a countdown timer. Marcus followed, throwing Tyler a look that was half apology, half "please don't make a scene." Tyler stood there, stunned, holding his gift bag like it had suddenly turned into something stupid and embarrassing. He looked at me. Did I do something wrong?" he asked quietly. I met his eyes, and I said the only honest thing left. "No," I told him. "You did everything right." I didn't chase them immediately. I gave it 3 minutes, long enough for whatever was happening in that hallway to become real. Bailey drifted closer to Tyler, offering him a drink he didn't take. People were openly watching the hallway now, not even pretending to look away anymore. Marcus's mother was starting to notice something was seriously off. His sister Ashley had her arms crossed, eyes narrowed like she was watching a movie she'd already predicted the ending of. Then I walked toward the hallway, not storming, not shaking, just steady. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, I swear, but the acoustics in that hallway didn't care about my intentions. Their voices carried perfectly. "I didn't think it mattered," Marcus was saying. Sierra's voice cracked, furious. "You didn't think it mattered that you have a girlfriend?" A pause. Marcus exhaled like he was annoyed he had to explain himself. "We were just catching up, Sierra." "Catching up?" Sierra hissed. "You've been texting me for 2 months, Marcus. Coffee, lunch, drinks. It was friendly." "You told me you missed me." My stomach dropped, because that part Marcus never brought home. Sierra continued, her voice shaking now, quieter. "You said breaking up was the biggest mistake you ever made." Silence. Then Marcus said, softer, "I was being nostalgic. It didn't mean anything." "Then why didn't you tell me about Emma?" Sierra snapped back. "Why didn't you tell me you were engaged?" "Why didn't you tell Tyler about this party?" Marcus shot back. Long pause. Sierra whispered, "You knew." Her voice broke on the words. "You knew if I thought you were available, You'd what?" Marcus cut in, voice harder now. "You're with Tyler. I'm engaged to Emma. What exactly did you think would happen here?" More silence. Then Sierra said, barely audible, "I don't know. I missed what we had." I stood there for 1 heartbeat longer than I should have, not because I needed to hear more. I'd heard enough. Then I turned and walked back into the party. Tyler was still by the bar, face tight, like he was trying to hold himself together in public. Marcus's mother hovered nearby, confused. Guests whispered into their drinks. The loft that moments ago had been full of laughter now felt like a room waiting for an explosion. Sierra emerged first, mascara slightly smudged. She didn't look at anyone. She beelined straight to the bar, poured herself champagne like it was medicine, and swallowed it way too fast. Marcus came out seconds later, jaw clenched. He walked straight to Tyler, grabbed his arm, and said something under his breath. Tyler pulled his arm away. "What is going on?" he demanded quietly, but with a sharpness that drew everyone's attention. "We should talk outside," Marcus said. "No," Sierra snapped. Don't you dare leave like I'm the problem here." And then her eyes found me again, like she suddenly remembered the one person who had orchestrated the timing of all this. I approached the bar slowly, stood beside her like a stranger might. "Having fun?" I asked softly. Sierra's head whipped toward me. Her eyes were wet, her face flushed, and her voice came out like a blade. "You did this," she said. "You invited him." I didn't deny it. I didn't apologize. I just held her gaze steady. "I invited Tyler because he's your boyfriend," I said calmly. "I thought he should be included. The more the merrier, right?" Her lips trembled. "You wanted to humiliate me." I leaned closer, just enough that only she could hear. "No," I said. "I wanted the truth in the room." If you were Sierra right now, what would you do? Drop your thoughts below, because this is about to get even messier.
Sierra swallowed hard. Behind us, Tyler's voice rose slightly, controlled but strained. "Sierra, why didn't you tell me?" Sierra flinched. Marcus's mother was now fully staring, alarm creeping into her face. Bailey watched me like she couldn't decide if I was cruel or absolutely brilliant. Sierra's voice dropped to a furious whisper. "You're petty." I smiled, and it wasn't the smile I gave Marcus on Monday when he told me about the party. This one had teeth. "I'm tired," I said quietly. "Tired of being asked to be mature about things that are fundamentally disrespectful." Sierra's eyes narrowed. I turned slightly, letting her see my hand, my ring. "I wasn't competing with you," I added. "I was trusting him." Sierra's throat bobbed as she swallowed. Then, like she couldn't stop herself, she hissed. "I didn't even know he was engaged." And that sentence, so small, so poisonous, landed like a bomb. Because it meant one thing. Marcus hadn't just been letting Sierra back into his life. He'd been actively keeping me out of it. The room went completely still. And in that stillness, I finally understood something simple and devastating. This wasn't about Sierra. This was about Marcus. And Marcus was standing right there, between his mother, his fiancé, his ex-girlfriend, and the wreckage he'd been pretending wasn't his. He looked at me, and for the first time all week, he didn't look confident. He looked like a man realizing his story had completely run out of lies. The party never recovered. You could feel it in the way conversations tried and failed to restart, in the way laughter sounded forced, too loud, like people were trying to prove something was still normal when it clearly wasn't. By 9 o'clock, at least half the guests had left. Marcus's coworkers were the first to disappear, followed by friends who suddenly remembered early mornings or babysitters waiting at home. The loft that had felt vibrant an hour earlier now felt cavernous and cold, every echo magnifying what had gone so terribly wrong. Marcus's mother approached me twice, asking softly in that tone people use when they already know the answer, "Is everything okay, sweetheart?" Marcus's father stopped speaking to me altogether. He just watched Marcus like he was trying to reconcile the son he thought he knew with the man standing in front of him now, hands shoved in his pockets, jaw locked. Ashley didn't say anything at all. She just watched everything closely, like she was filing it all away for later. Have you ever been at an event where everything fell apart? Tell me your story in the comments. Tyler and Sierra left together around 8:45, not touching, not speaking, walking side by side like strangers bound by an obligation neither of them wanted anymore. Marcus didn't follow them. He stayed, and that told me more than anything else could have. At 10:30, I called an Uber. Marcus didn't ask where I was going. He didn't try to stop me. That night, I slept alone, and so did he. Marcus didn't come home Saturday night or Sunday. I texted him Sunday morning. Simple, direct. We need to talk. No response. By Sunday evening, my phone rang. It was Ashley. She didn't say hello. "What the hell did you do?" she demanded. I closed my laptop and leaned back in my chair, exhausted. I invited Sierra's boyfriend to the party. Silence on the other end, long enough that I wondered if the call had dropped. "He's staying with our parents," Ashley said finally. "Sierra's a mess. She says you ambushed her." "Did she tell you Marcus has been telling her he missed her, that breaking up was a mistake?" Another silence. Then Ashley sighed just slightly. "He loves you, Emma." I closed my eyes. "Does he?" I asked quietly. Because from where I'm standing, he's been keeping one foot in the past while asking me to plan a future with him. Ashley's throat bobbed as she swallowed. Then, like she couldn't stop herself, she hissed, "She didn't even know he was engaged." And that sentence, so small, so poisonous, landed like a bomb. Because it meant one thing. Marcus hadn't just been letting Sierra back into his life. He'd been actively keeping me out of it. The room went completely still. And in that stillness, I finally understood something simple and devastating. This wasn't about Sierra. This was about Marcus. And Marcus was standing right there, between his mother, his fiancé, his ex-girlfriend, and the wreckage he'd been pretending wasn't his. He looked at me, and for the first time all week, he didn't look confident. He looked like a man realizing his story had completely run out of lies. The party never recovered. You could feel it in the way conversations tried and failed to restart, in the way laughter sounded forced, too loud, like people were trying to prove something was still normal when it clearly wasn't. By 9 o'clock, at least half the guests had left. Marcus's coworkers were the first to disappear, followed by friends who suddenly remembered early mornings or babysitters waiting at home. The loft that had felt vibrant an hour earlier now felt cavernous and cold, every echo magnifying what had gone so terribly wrong. Marcus's mother approached me twice, asking softly in that tone people use when they already know the answer, "Is everything okay, sweetheart?" Marcus's father stopped speaking to me altogether. He just watched Marcus like he was trying to reconcile the son he thought he knew with the man standing in front of him now, hands shoved in his pockets, jaw locked. Ashley didn't say anything at all. She just watched everything closely, like she was filing it all away for later. Have you ever been at an event where everything fell apart? Tell me your story in the comments. Tyler and Sierra left together around 8:45, not touching, not speaking, walking side by side like strangers bound by an obligation neither of them wanted anymore. Marcus didn't follow them. He stayed, and that told me more than anything else could have. At 10:30, I called an Uber. Marcus didn't ask where I was going. He didn't try to stop me. That night, I slept alone, and so did he. Marcus didn't come home Saturday night or Sunday. I texted him Sunday morning. Simple, direct. We need to talk. No response. By Sunday evening, my phone rang. It was Ashley. She didn't say hello. "What the hell did you do?" she demanded. I closed my laptop and leaned back in my chair, exhausted. I invited Sierra's boyfriend to the party. Silence on the other end, long enough that I wondered if the call had dropped. "He's staying with our parents," Ashley said finally. "Sierra's a mess. She says you ambushed her." "Did she tell you Marcus has been telling her he missed her, that breaking up was a mistake?" Another silence. Then Ashley sighed just slightly. He loves you, Emma. I closed my eyes. Does he? I asked quietly. Because from where I'm standing, he's been keeping one foot in the past while asking me to plan a future with him. Ashley's throat bobbed as she swallowed. Then, like she couldn't stop herself, she hissed. She didn't even know he was engaged. And that sentence, so small, so poisonous, landed like a bomb. Because it meant one thing. Marcus hadn't just been letting Sierra back into his life. He'd been actively keeping me out of it. The room went completely still. And in that stillness, I finally understood something simple and devastating. This wasn't about Sierra. This was about Marcus. And Marcus was standing right there, between his mother, his fiancé, his ex-girlfriend, and the wreckage he'd been pretending wasn't his. He looked at me, and for the first time all week, he didn't look confident. He looked like a man realizing his story had completely run out of lies. The party never recovered. You could feel it in the way conversations tried and failed to restart, in the way laughter sounded forced, too loud, like people were trying to prove something was still normal when it clearly wasn't. By 9 o'clock, at least half the guests had left. Marcus's coworkers were the first to disappear, followed by friends who suddenly remembered early mornings or babysitters waiting at home. The loft that had felt vibrant an hour earlier now felt cavernous and cold, every echo magnifying what had gone so terribly wrong. Marcus's mother approached me twice, asking softly in that tone people use when they already know the answer, "Is everything okay, sweetheart?" Marcus's father stopped speaking to me altogether. He just watched Marcus like he was trying to reconcile the son he thought he knew with the man standing in front of him now, hands shoved in his pockets, jaw locked. Ashley didn't say anything at all. She just watched everything closely, like she was filing it all away for later. Have you ever been at an event where everything fell apart? Tell me your story in the comments. Tyler and Sierra left together around 8:45, not touching, not speaking, walking side by side like strangers bound by an obligation neither of them wanted anymore. Marcus didn't follow them. He stayed, and that told me more than anything else could have. At 10:30, I called an Uber. Marcus didn't ask where I was going. He didn't try to stop me. That night, I slept alone, and so did he. Marcus didn't come home Saturday night, or Sunday. I texted him Sunday morning. Simple, direct.
Marcus moved out completely the following Monday. His parents came with him to help. His father wouldn't even look at me. His mother hugged me so tightly before they left and whispered, "I'm sorry, sweetheart." The engagement was officially over. I kept the ring, not out of spite, not out of bitterness, but out of truth. Returning it would have felt like pretending it never meant anything, and it had meant something, just not enough. A few weeks later, I heard through mutual friends that Marcus and Sierra tried dating again. It lasted 3 weeks. Apparently, nostalgia doesn't survive reality. The version of each other they missed didn't actually exist anymore, if it ever had. Sierra went back to Tyler. He forgave her. I don't know how, honestly, but he did. That part bothered me more than I expected. Not because I wanted her to suffer, but because forgiveness doesn't always mean healing. Sometimes it just means fear of being alone. Marcus never reached out, not once, until one night, almost a month after everything fell apart. His text was short. "I'm sorry for how things ended. You deserve better." I stared at that screen for a long time. Then I set the phone down, because apologies that arrive after all accountability has expired aren't really apologies anymore. They're just echoes. A few days after that, I sold the ring. It wasn't an emotional decision, it was practical. The money went towards something I'd been putting off for years, a solo trip I'd always talked about but never prioritized. Proof to myself that my life wasn't on hold just because a relationship ended. Tell me in the comments what you think about all this, and if you've dealt with something similar, please share your story. You're not alone in this. Subscribe for more stories about standing your ground and reclaiming your life, because we all deserve that. Someone asked me recently if inviting Tyler to the party was cruel, if I'd crossed a line, if it was petty or vindictive. I thought about that night. The string lights, the frozen smiles, the moment everything stopped pretending, and I answered honestly, no, because I didn't create the betrayal. I didn't invent the lies. I didn't pull Marcus toward the past while he was promising me a future. All I did was refuse to protect a story that was already untrue. You can survive a breakup, you can survive heartbreak, but you cannot survive being slowly erased while being asked to stay. I learned that the hard way. The apartment felt different once Marcus was completely gone. Not emptier, just quieter. Like a room after a storm has passed and taken all the noise with it. For the first few days, I kept expecting some emotional aftershock, a breakdown, regret, the urge to call him and rewrite the ending. That's what movies promise you, right? That the final separation is dramatic, that grief announces itself loudly. But real endings don't always do that. Sometimes they arrive calmly, like clarity finally sitting down beside you. I boxed up the things we'd bought together. The extra coffee mugs, the throw blanket he insisted we needed, the framed photo from our mountain trip where we're both smiling at the camera, engaged, convinced we were standing at the beginning instead of the edge. I didn't destroy anything. I didn't need to. Marcus had already done the breaking. Life didn't magically improve after that, but it did become lighter. I moved to a smaller apartment closer to work. Less space, less echo, fewer memories clinging to the walls. I rearranged my routines. Morning gym sessions, longer walks home, nights where I read instead of scrolling through photos that no longer belonged to me. Bailey stayed close, so did a few friends who hadn't known what to say at the party, but found their voices afterwards. They didn't ask me to explain myself. They didn't tell me how strong I was in that condescending way people do. They just stayed. About a month later, I ran into Ashley at a coffee shop downtown. We both paused, unsure. Then she sat down across from me. Marcus moved to Portland, she said quietly, for a job opportunity, a fresh start. I nodded. I hope he finds what he's looking for. And I meant it. Not because I wasn't hurt anymore, but because holding on to anger felt like carrying someone else's baggage when I'd already put mine down. Ashley looked at me for a long moment. Then, for what it's worth, she said, I don't think you were wrong. I think you were just done being the only adult in the room. That was the kindest thing anyone had said to me in weeks. As for me, I'm still here, still figuring things out. I deleted Marcus from social media, not out of anger, but out of necessity. I started saying yes to things I used to decline, started prioritizing myself in ways I'd forgotten how to. And you know what? I don't regret inviting Tyler to that party, not a second. Would I have preferred a different ending? Of course, a version where Marcus chose honesty over nostalgia, where we actually talked instead of quietly unraveling. But you can't build a future with someone who's still living in their past. And if there's one thing I learned from all of this, it's that choosing clarity over comfort isn't cruel. It's survival. So here I am, 29 years old, single, starting over in ways I never expected. And somehow I'm okay. Not perfect, not healed completely, but okay. And that's enough for now. That's more than enough. Drop a comment and let me know what city you're listening from. I want to see how far this story has traveled, and if any part of this resonated with you, if you've been where I was, share your story, because the more we talk about this stuff, the less alone we all feel. Subscribe for more real stories about messy breakups, standing up for yourself, and finding your way back to who you really are. Thank you for listening. Really, thank you.